Director General, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Can you update us on what you know about the security and the stability of the nuclear reactors, the nuclear facilities, the nuclear storage facilities in Ukraine?
Well, as you're saying, thank you very much for having me, first of all. Ukraine is a country with a vast nuclear program, which includes, as you are describing, a number of nuclear reactors, nuclear power plants, 4 of them, 15 reactors, more than 50% of the electricity produced and consumed in the country coming from that. And apart from that, you have all the associated facilities, fuel fabrication facilities, waste storage facilities, a number of them. And of course, the iconic Chernobyl, which is a decommissioning and in decommission facility. So a vast array of installations throughout the country. And of course, first time there is an ongoing military conflict, war actually, taking place amidst these facilities. This, of course, in and by itself constitutes a very delicate situation. In terms of what is going on now, I can tell you that we have been, and we are, as part of our mission, as the International Nuclear Organization, we are in constant contact with our Ukrainian counterparts, what we call in the jargon the nuclear regulator, so that they are relaying to us the situation hour after hour on the different facilities. You were referring to one of those, Zaporozhye, which is a place where 6 nuclear reactors are operating. They are operating as we speak. So there is what we could call, technically speaking, I would emphasize, technically speaking, normal operation. Of course, there is nothing normal when you have war or military conflict or special military operations going at your doorstep or in your place. So what is happening now, in particular in this case, is that there is an increased level of tension because of the forces that are there, that are not necessarily inside the perimeter of the plant, but occupying the surroundings and also taking effective control of the nearby village where most of the employees, the staff of this huge industrial compound, because at the end of the day it is like a big, huge industrial compound, so where these people live. So there have been pickets, there have been, I would say, physical, almost face-to-face confrontation between the security forces acting there and the local population. So as you can imagine, it is a very, very delicate situation where anything could happen. So we are in contact with them and trying to ascertain the situation as we speak. Yes, I hear you.
Yeah, this is not just the biggest nuclear site in Ukraine. It's the biggest nuclear site in Europe. And the individuals working at it have gone for days without breaks because Russia is encroaching on it. Is the IAEA doing anything to help support these people, to make sure there's no errors in this potential fog of war?
Yes, we are constantly within the limitations that the situation imposes on all of us. We are not there. I wish we could be there. We are not there. And mind you, we are working on trying to be there. But for the time being, what we are doing is we are in constant contact with, of course, my natural counterpart is and should be always Ukraine, because we are talking about Ukraine. But at the same time, I'm in contact with all involved to the extent we can to indicate and to make sure that everybody is aware, that we are aware of what is going on, and that calm should prevail in these circumstances. So, and most of all, what we are doing is providing, and I think it's very important for you as professionals of the information, is very important that we are providing credible information of what is going. Somebody once said that when there is a war, the first victim is the truth. Of course, it's a conflict, and people are issuing information. There is a lot of fake news here and there. So what we are doing is we are collating the information, we are checking with all the sources, and I am issuing at regular intervals updates on what's going on.
Director General, I just want to bring a piece of news to our audience, which is related. It comes from the European Union, it comes from Brussels. The EU is seeking to suspend Russia's most favoured nation status at the World Trade Organization, the WTO. This was anticipated, but is a further blow to Russia's integration into the global economy. We will come back to that story in just a moment. Director General, let's return to the issue of nuclear power and nuclear weapons. Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons at the end of the Cold War. It was assured by a number of nations, including the United Kingdom, the United States, and Russia, that its territorial integrity would be maintained. That has now not happened. Russia has invaded. What message does that, do you think, send to other nations, other leaders with aspirations to be nuclear power, to maintain their own security? What message does it send about the need to maintain those weapons rather than give them up?
Well, I think having nuclear weapons is never a good idea. As you know, my main mission as IAEA is to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. So this logic that perhaps should have been better, could have been better to keep nuclear weapons, I don't think I could never subscribe to that idea. If anything, this would make the situation much worse than it is now. I think what's important, and the message to others, is that we must all abide by our international commitments. Insofar as the IAEA is concerned, these commitments have to do with not diverting nuclear material to make weapons, and in this case, adhering strictly to safety and security rules, which are the ones we are trying to enforce at the moment.
Mr. Grossi, before I let you go, we have to ask about Iran. The messaging from Tehran, from the foreign minister, Hossein Amir-Abdollahian, is very optimistic at the moment. Yesterday, you said in a press conference you had no plans to go to Iran. But now you are going to Tehran on Saturday. What has changed in the last 24 hours?
Well, the negotiations with Iran are ongoing, were ongoing, and we believe, Iran and myself, that we have come to a point where it could be worthwhile give it a very decisive try and see if we can agree on something. And for those who may not be familiar, this something, as far as I am concerned, is to see how we can clarify a number of issues that have been hanging on for a long time, because the IAEA found traces of enriched uranium and other nuclear material, and has information about installations and places that had never been declared to the IAEA. So this, combined with the ongoing negotiations, which, as you know, are taking place also in parallel here in Vienna, on the revival or possible revival of the agreements, the 2015 agreements, in the jargon, the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, so Program of Action. This compound makes it for a complex issue that has to move in parallel in the same direction and in the same way, because people cannot foresee that there could be a return to the JCPOA if there are unresolved issues with the IAEA. This is why it is so important that we find a way forward. It doesn't mean that I'm going to solve this by traveling to Tehran over the weekend. It means that we are going to try to see eye to eye, understand each other, and see what needs to be done so that these things are clarified, and at the same time this paves the way for the other agreement maybe to be revived.